A little girl who had never spoken a single word in public suddenly looked at a tired stranger fixing an electrical panel in a towering corporate headquarters. She smiled with tears in her eyes and softly whispered, "She sounds nice." The entire lobby fell silent. The billionaire CEO froze in disbelief. Doctors had spent years trying to help her daughter speak. Therapists had failed. Family members had waited in heartbreak. Yet somehow, a stranger carrying nothing more than a worn toolbox had unlocked a voice everyone believed might never come. If you believe kindness can change lives, forgiveness can heal broken hearts, and hope can appear in the most unexpected moments, please like this video, leave a comment telling us where you're watching from, share this story with someone you love, and subscribe to our channel for more emotional journeys that remind us humanity is still alive. The morning sun poured through the towering glass walls of Halstead Innovations, painting the marble floors with warm golden light. Employees hurried through the spacious lobby while executives discussed million-dollar contracts. Everything inside the building reflected success, power, and prestige. At the center of it all stood CEO Celeste Hawthorne, a woman admired by investors and feared by competitors. Newspapers praised her brilliant mind, but no article ever mentioned the quiet sadness she carried home every evening. Behind the polished image was a mother whose greatest achievement meant nothing because her 8-year-old daughter, Elara, had stopped speaking after surviving a terrible highway accident 3 years earlier. The crash had taken Elara's father and left the little girl emotionally locked behind an invisible wall. She understood every word spoken to her, smiled occasionally, and expressed herself through drawings, but her voice had disappeared as though grief had stolen it forever. Celeste had spent fortunes searching for answers. The finest neurologists, psychologists, speech therapists, and child specialists from across Europe and North America had all tried. They promised progress, but every appointment ended the same way. Elara remained silent. Over time, Celeste stopped hoping for miracles. She simply loved her daughter the best she could while carrying unbearable guilt. She had insisted on taking that family trip. She had survived. Her husband had not. Every successful business deal only reminded her that money could build skyscrapers but could not buy back a single word from the child she loved most. That same morning another parent walked through the revolving doors carrying an old toolbox and a work order folded neatly inside his pocket. His name was Graham Mercer, an independent electrical technician hired to repair a recurring power issue in the building's emergency systems. Unlike many people entering the headquarters, Graham wore faded work clothes instead of expensive suits. Life had never been generous to him. 5 years earlier his wife had died from a sudden illness, leaving him to raise his young son alone. Since then he had accepted every repair job he could find, often skipping meals so his boy could continue attending music lessons. Graham believed children deserve dreams even when parents had to sacrifice everything to protect them. As Graham examined the electrical panel near the executive elevators, Elara wandered quietly through the lobby holding a stuffed rabbit tightly against her chest. Her nanny remained only a few steps away, believing the secure building was the safest place in the city. Elara noticed Graham humming softly while working. It was an old folk melody his late wife used to sing while cooking breakfast. He barely realized he was humming it anymore. For him it was simply a comforting habit that eased loneliness. Something changed inside Elara. She slowly walked toward the maintenance area while everyone assumed she was simply curious about the tools. Graham noticed her approaching and immediately stopped working so she would feel comfortable. Instead of trying to entertain her or asking questions, he simply smiled with genuine warmth. Children always recognized kindness that expected nothing in return. Elara listened carefully to the melody. Her eyes filled with tears. She looked back toward her mother standing several feet away speaking with senior executives. Then, barely louder than a whisper, the little girl spoke. "She sounds nice." The sentence was tiny. But to Celeste it sounded louder than thunder. Time itself seemed to stop. The executives stared in complete disbelief. The nanny covered her mouth as tears streamed down her face. Graham looked confused, unaware that he had just witnessed something doctors had called nearly impossible. Celeste dropped every document she was holding and rushed across the marble floor. Her knees trembled so violently she nearly collapsed before reaching her daughter. She gently embraced Alara without saying a word because she feared even breathing might frighten away the miracle she had just witnessed. For the first time in years, hope entered that building. The following days became emotional beyond anything Celeste imagined. Therapists confirmed Alara's voice had not disappeared because of physical damage. Her silence had always been emotional, rooted in overwhelming trauma. Somehow Graham's familiar melody had awakened a memory of safety from before the accident. Alara's father had often hummed almost the same tune while driving them on family vacations. Graham had unknowingly reached a place inside the little girl's heart no treatment had ever found. News of the remarkable moment quietly spread through the company. Employees who barely noticed maintenance workers before now greeted every cleaner, technician, and contractor with greater respect. One unexpected act of kindness began changing the culture of an entire corporation. Celeste wanted to thank Graham personally, but he refused expensive gifts. He insisted he had done nothing extraordinary. He had simply treated a child like any other child. His humility fascinated Celeste because she spent most of her life surrounded by people seeking influence, promotions, or financial gain. Graham wanted none of it. Instead, she offered him permanent employment overseeing safety maintenance for all company facilities. The salary would provide stability for his son without forcing Graham to travel constantly. He hesitated. He worried accepting charity would diminish his pride. Celeste gently explained it was not charity. It was recognition of talent, honesty, and integrity. The company desperately needed people who cared more about doing the right thing than impressing executives. For the first time in years, Graham accepted help. Months passed beneath bright blue skies and warm afternoons. Day after day Alara slowly recovered. She did not suddenly become talkative, but every new sentence felt like another sunrise after endless storms. Graham never pressured her. Sometimes he simply fixed equipment nearby while humming quietly. Gradually she began greeting employees, thanking receptionists, and laughing with children visiting the building. One afternoon Alara met Graham's son, Rowan, during a company family picnic held in a nearby park. Rowan understood quiet better than most children because grief had also shaped his childhood. Instead of asking why Alara rarely spoke, he simply invited her to fly a kite. She smiled. That smile became another small miracle. Watching their children together forced Celeste and Graham to confront emotions they had carefully buried. They discovered they both understood loss without needing lengthy explanations. They both knew the exhausting loneliness of raising children while pretending everything was fine. Neither sought pity. Both simply wanted their children to feel safe again. Yet healing was never simple. Some members of the company's board disliked Graham's growing influence. They whispered that the CEO had become emotionally compromised. Rumors spread suggesting Graham manipulated the situation to secure a comfortable career. Anonymous articles questioned his qualifications. Social media amplified cruel speculation from people who knew nothing about the truth. Graham quietly offered his resignation. He refused to become the reason Celeste's reputation suffered. When she found the resignation letter on her desk, old fears returned. For years she had believed everyone eventually left. Her husband had been taken by fate. Friends disappeared when business became difficult. Even hope had abandoned her. She found Graham repairing lights in one of the warehouses. He expected anger. Instead, Celeste thanked him. She admitted she had hidden behind professional perfection because vulnerability frightened her. She confessed that after losing her husband she stopped trusting happiness because every joyful moment reminded her how quickly life could change. Graham listened without interruption. Then he quietly admitted he almost forgot how to dream after burying his wife. He had become so focused on surviving that he stopped imagining a future filled with genuine happiness. Neither promised romance. Neither made dramatic declarations. They simply chose courage over fear. The next board meeting became unforgettable. Celeste publicly defended Graham's integrity before investors, executives, and directors. She presented years of flawless work records, glowing recommendations, and measurable improvements in company safety under his leadership. She reminded everyone that character could never be measured by job titles or expensive clothing. Her speech transformed more than opinions. It reminded everyone that dignity belongs equally to those repairing buildings and those running them. Months later, Halstead Innovations launched a scholarship supporting children recovering from emotional trauma. Instead of naming it after the company, Celeste named it after hope itself. Families received therapy regardless of income, ensuring no parent would ever have to choose between paying bills and helping a child heal. Elara continued finding her voice one conversation at a time. One bright spring afternoon, the company hosted a celebration honoring employees from every department. Executives stood beside janitors, engineers beside receptionists, and managers beside technicians. No one received special seating because everyone mattered equally. When Elara stepped onto the small stage holding Graham's hand with one hand and her mother's with the other, hundreds of employees fell completely silent. The little girl looked around confidently. Then she smiled. In a clear voice filled with gratitude, she thanked every person who had believed she would speak again. She said, "Voices do not always disappear because they are broken. Sometimes they simply wait until they feel safe enough to return." There was not a dry eye in the audience. Before we reach the end of this story, tell us in the comments, have you ever experienced a moment when one small act of kindness completely changed someone's life, or your own? Your words may encourage someone reading them today. Years later, people no longer remembered the billion-dollar deals completed inside Halstead Innovations. They remembered the little girl whose first words returned because a widowed father treated her with quiet compassion. They remembered a CEO who learned strength was not hiding pain but allowing love to heal it. They remembered a hardworking technician who proved that ordinary people often carry extraordinary gifts without ever realizing it. Elara's voice grew stronger with every passing season. Rowan flourished with the stability his father had finally found. Celeste discovered that leadership meant serving others before serving herself. Graham learned accepting kindness required just as much courage as giving it. Together they built not only a stronger company but a family united by compassion rather than circumstance. The greatest miracle had never been the little girl's first words. It was the chain of kindness they inspired, touching countless lives that would never know how one quiet sentence changed everything forever. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, leave a meaningful comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to our channel so you never miss another emotional journey. Remember, the smallest act of compassion may become the miracle someone has been waiting for all their life.